What's up, rockers? Welcome to another episode of the Talk Louder podcast, where we geek out on all things rock and roll. Hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Leave us your likes and comments. You can also leave likes and comments on our Facebook page. Follow us on iTunes and Spotify. You can also now follow us on Instagram. We have an Instagram account. It's talklouder_podcast. Make sure you look for the right one. That's talklouder_podcast on Instagram. And, of course, we have our website, talklouderpodcast.com. I'm Metal Dave Glessner, along with my co-host, Jason McMaster. And our guest today, I think it's fair to say, is a super collector. You want to chime in here, Jason? I'm glad you got this guy on our show.
Yeah, so Mr. Rodney Dunsmore from South Texas, a friend of mine for many years. He was the singer in thrash metal band, 80s thrash metal band Devastation, who signed to Combat Records in the mid to late 80s and toured with bands such as Dark Angel and Death and Sepultura, to name a few. He's a legend in these parts and has made quite an impact as an entrepreneurial show promoter in his early days, when he was basically before his band gained any ground. And he is a lifelong, since the age of 8, vinyl collector. He collects singles, he collects demo cassettes, he collects, for the most part, 12-inch LPs and 12-inch singles. And he is an incredible human being. He, much like a lot of us old schoolers, of course, was around with the breaking of the dam of early thrash metal. Arguably, you could just say the Big Four, but it was bigger than that as well. He saw all of the bands that we talk about here in their earliest, on their first tours of the U.S. Here in South Texas, and would even travel to see these bands play. And he's a worthy guest for the Talk Louder podcast, just because he is a freak and a complete self-admitted addict to collecting hard rock and heavy metal vinyl. His slideshow, it's ridiculous. He says his estimate of LP collection enters the realm of 10,000 records.
Yeah.
His music room is a museum, but then and it's interesting. I've been to his castle, and his castle is not, it's unassuming. The entryway has all these great framed posters from all over the place. And then you get into what just looks like the normal household. If you keep going, there's a room in the back. Once you enter, it's all Excalibur music happens, and it just turns into like this guy has a freaking record store in his house. But the trick is, nothing's for sale. How you doing, Rodney?
Doing good, Jason. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, and I can't believe that you and Dave haven't met. I swear you guys have. Maybe you guys were just having beers.
I think we met back at Sneakers in a day or something like that. Probably.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I've been in Austin for 25, 26 years, and I grew up before that in the San Antonio metal scene. So I know we have a lot of mutual friends, and I'm sure we were in the same building at the same time at one point or many.
We've crossed paths for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how that works. Man, let me just get this going. Rodney, tell us about it doesn't have to be a timeline, and we're going to get to all of that beautiful thing behind, just so people know who are watching right now and they see Rodney's camera. The things that he has behind him, those are all real. That is not a digital backdrop that you can just choose off of the Zoom drop down menu for backdrops.
Yeah.
That is a true rock and roll fan's record collection.
That looks like a heavy metal museum exhibit right there.
Yeah.
Not a square inch of wall is left. It's all
You know what? Screw it.
rock and
Let's
roll.
just start with that. Tell us about your collection and kind of what got you into that?
That dates back to 1975. My dad bought me my first record, which was Kiss Alive. I'm sure a lot of people got to start with that one. And it just, man, you know, changed everything for me. I had always liked music, but up until that point in time, had just heard maybe little 45s my mom or dad had laying around the house, what have you. But and he didn't actually even buy it for me the first time I wanted it. We were at this Music Plus store in Staples in Corpus Christi, Texas. And the album must have just come out because I remember a huge display when you walk in the store, right? And man, I just went right to it and I was looking at the album and I'm like, I got to have this. So I went and asked my dad and he's like, oh, no, I'm not buying you that satanic garbage. Look at that. Guys look like devils and this and that, fire on the front.
Well, did you go, Dad, that's the reason I want it? And Dad goes, where did I go wrong? Anyway, continue.
But the cool thing is my parents were divorced, so I lived in Rockport at the time with my mom. So my dad, the next weekend he came home, and when I went into my bedroom, that Kiss Alive was sitting on my bed, and I was just like, oh man, you know, it was like incredible, you know. So I went straight to the stereo, and of course he made me listen to it only with the headphones because he didn't want to do it, but and I listened to that thing over and over and over. You know, it was my introduction into heavy music, and that's what got me started. And the stuff you see behind me, I've just never stopped. That's the thing. I mean, a lot of my friends I come across like maybe in the 90s they sold their record collection because they were hard up for money or just weren't into it anymore. And I see a lot of friends now.
I'm a member of that club.
Okay, well, I mean, you were always a musician, so you needed to make ends meet however you could, you know.
Yeah.
And some of these guys, like I see them now posting online, they're getting excited because they're buying Hella Weights, and I'm like, man, how have you not had Hella Weights since it came out?
Right,
you know? It's
right.
One of those things, but I just never sold my records. I kept on to them, and you know, and now at the age I am, if you start at 8, you're gonna have a lot of stuff, you know. And people like to say, oh, you got everything, because I've got about 4,000 or 5,000 singles and about 10,000 records, but you know, there's still stuff I'm looking for. It's pretty rare stuff, but I'm still looking, you know.
Do you? I feel dumb asking this. Would you call it an addiction?
I would. Me and Rob McNeese talk about that quite often. It really is. It's I'm not going to say it's an unhealthy addiction because, you know, you have something for your money, like with drugs or beer, whatever. You know, you get high or you get drunk and then your money's gone and you don't have. But when you buy records, you have them for life. You know, I mean, it's
well, the word wasted comes to mind. You've wasted your money on getting wasted because there's nothing left over, right?
True.
I feel like well, you're obviously a huge fan above all. And you know, your story is like a lot of others, and I mean, obviously, by the junk that me and Dave have behind us compared to the beautiful display you have, we are slightly addicted as well, and we have our wares, and I mean, I've got CDs and cassettes behind me, and he's got autographed, framed albums and posters. And you have that as well as the vinyl collection. Are you against digital?
I don't buy CDs, if that's what you mean. I don't download on the internet. I don't. No, if I can't buy it on vinyl, I just go without, you know. And it's, you know, I guess so. Yeah, I guess I am against digital.
Yeah,
I've always found that odd, like you said, Rodney. You know, we're all. Me and Jason, I don't know about you, but we're 50 something years old and we still have this collection of stuff that we value and treasure. And, you know, sometimes my friends from back in high school, they come over and visit or whatever, and they just can't believe that I still have this stuff. And I'm like you, I'm like, how do you not have it? Like, it's funny when I post an old concert ticket stub on Facebook or something, and somebody says, "Oh, I wish I would have kept my ticket stubs." I'm like, how do you not keep your ticket stubs? They're this big. You can keep them in a drawer, but how do you not keep them and value them and treasure them? I guess we just have a problem.
You know what I think it is about the ticket stub or something small like that is they're not the nerd that we are. They're not that nerd.
Probably true.
They,
Yeah.
you know, they tear the ticket. You know, you walk in, if it's even a paper ticket, with the bands listed and the venue and the
that's
price and all
changed
that.
too.
That's right. That has changed. But back in the day, tearing a ticket is in the garbage. It's moving on to the concert. You know, da da da. It's like if you buy the beer cup that's got the concert date and the logo on it and stuff, they're probably throwing that away too. You see, the collector's cup and all that. You know, you get the Kiss cup from the Whataburger in the 70s, and you
don't
throw
wash
that
it.
away. Yeah,
You don't wash it.
You wash that and put it in a glass case if the hat fits, right?
Yep.
That's a different nerd, right?
Yeah. So Rodney, did I hear you said you got 10,000 LPs? Is that what I heard?
Close estimate. Yeah, I built these shelves, and each shelf holds like 500. I went to a record store display because I hated having them like books, because I hate reading the spines. I'd rather flip through and see the art, you know, and stuff.
Yeah.
Last year I had these shelves built, and yeah, it's close to 10,000. Yeah.
Man, that is crazy. I told my son that we were having you on the podcast today, and he's just now started collecting vinyl, and he might be pushing 50 LPs, and he's very proud of them, and he loves building his collection and knowing the difference between the bands and all that stuff. And I told him I was going to talk to a guy who's got like a room, like not even in your house. I understand it's a separate room out in your backyard. Is that right? Like,
No, it is part of my house, but it's at the back of the house. Yeah.
okay. And I told my son that you've got this room that's dedicated to all this stuff. And I saw some pictures on your Facebook page, and I'm sure the pictures don't do it justice, but it was pretty impressive, man. I mean, holy smokes.
Well, Dave, I'm just gonna invite ourselves out to Rodney's house. I just invited ourselves out there. So listen, we could talk about the record collection and things that you have, and we could pull out what Sean calls the book. Rodney, I've been meaning to ask you. You have a copy of the book, don't you?
Yeah, Sean gave me one a few years ago. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
awesome book. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of means that there's sort of the secret club for the people who have the book. On top of there is, for those of you listening, we did an episode with our good buddy Sean Weingartner, who's a bit of a collector, fan, musician, etc., and who is a friend of ours, all of ours, Rodney's included, and he is. It's no surprise that he and Rodney are have ventured out to. Tell us about maybe some of the festivals like overseas that you and Sean have been to together.
Well, the only one I've been that Sean was at was last year's Keep It True. But
right, I think I was there.
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah.
You performed.
Yeah.
But I just started. I don't know. I saw this advertisement for this new wave of British heavy metal festival called Brofest. Kind of a weird name, but in Newcastle, and the bands that were on it were just insane. It was like Mithra, Bleak House, Holocaust, bands that as a kid I never thought I'd have the chance to see, because those bands are not coming to America. So this guy put on this festival, and then he had it for like 6 or 7 years straight. And every year I would fly to fly to Newcastle just to see this festival. And I met some great people, got some lifelong friends out of it, saw some amazing bands. It's just great. People I think here just don't understand how the scene is in Europe. It's just a lot different. Germany is completely insane. That country probably has 200 to 300 metal festivals alone, just metal, a year. It's just insane. It's crazy over there, but I love it. I'd love to go every chance I get.
Yeah, it's interesting. Here's a good way to look at it, and I've always found this extremely interesting and not surprising to someone like us, but that an American heavy metal fan just, you know, your average someone who claims to be a heavy metal fan or even a hard rock heavy metal fan, I'll generalize a little bit, and they see an ad in an import magazine, maybe an underground magazine, where a festival in Germany, like similar to what you're talking about, whether it be in the UK or in Europe, and there's a list of all these bands, and it's, you know, Metal Fest, you know, 2023, and there's all these metal bands on there, and half of them are even American bands.
Yeah.
And the average American so-called hard rock heavy metal fan will not know any of the bands, will be not familiar with any of the bands on there. How common is that?
I guess that depends on the size of the festival. You know, there are definitely some more obscure underground festivals like Headbangers Open Air and stuff like that, where you get more of the cult classic kind of bands. But, you know, something like Hellfest, you got Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, you know, sharing the stage. So, I mean, yeah, the lineups look awesome for these fans over here because we don't get stuff like that here. But there definitely ranges from festivals that get maybe 500-600 people to, you know, whatever 100,000 at Vakken or whatever they get, you know.
Yeah, so it's normal to have a venue that only holds, let's say, just like 1,000 people.
Oh yeah.
In the middle of you know, the UK somewhere, that will have bands that an American heavy metal fan will never have heard of, whether it be by age or they're into more popular titles, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, that's common. That was my point.
Some of those festivals, yeah, they have nothing more than demo tapes. You know, it's insane. Somebody will track them down 30 years later off of a demo tape, and the guy's like, "Yeah, I'll come play it in Europe," you know, and get the band back together, start rehearsing. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Just to play their 7 songs.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they have their suit and tie haircut, and they come out wearing their wife's clothes. just to have something to wear on stage, right?
So besides all the metal festivals where, you know, I imagine you go to every possible record convention you can ever go to. What's the most money you've ever dropped at a record convention?
Oh shit.
Probably at the Austin one year back in the 90s. I remember I dropped almost $2,000. I was just finding all these rare things at once, you know, and it just was like, it was killing me, you know. But you know, like the first Motley Crue 7-inch on leather, that one I think I paid like $100 back in the early 90s for it, but now I'm sure it's, you know, whatever, 1,000. But I've definitely dropped some cash. Even a couple years ago at Keep It True, I dropped close to 1,000 euros because these guys from Greece and Spain, they're bringing all this stuff that, man, I've just never seen, you know. And it's, I guess, like going back to what Jason said, it's an addiction. I'm like, man, how can I not have this? You know, who cares about the money? I'll have a chance to make more money. I may never see this record again, you know. So I'm one of the few people that I put records over money because money's everywhere. Everybody has money, but these records, some of them are not. They're rare, you know. It's stuff that's hard to find, you know. So I'd rather have a cool record than $100 bill. That's just how I am, you know. That's
an interesting way of putting it, that you can always make more money, but you might never see this record again. That explains that right there explains a lot.
Yeah, well, and I think that sort of hidden in there, it's kind of an obvious, or maybe it's not obvious, but I'm just going to try to hit it like it's a bullseye. There might be, you take out of 10,000 records, there might be 100 of them that are worth $1,000.
Yeah, I mean, easily.
You don't know that, but do you know that?
I don't keep up with the prices as much as most people or some of my friends, but I mean, I do have a generalization of what things are.
think about what I just said, because it's kind of blowing my own mind. At least 100 of the records that you have sitting right behind you right now, 100 of them could be worth close to $1,000. True or false?
Oh, that's easily true. Yeah.
So 100 of those records, you sold them, are worth $100,000.
True, yeah.
You see what I'm trying to say right now? It's kind of like a sickening, sticky, ugly, beautiful thing that you're talking about here. So your shit is an investment. That stuff you have, that addiction you have, that's an investment from a business standpoint. You're not looking to get rid of anything. That's not what you're doing here.
Obviously.
You're doing this because you love this shit.
He obviously doesn't get rid of anything.
No.
So, Rodney, let me ask you, out of your collection, what would you say is your most valuable record, and what is your sentimental favorite out of your entire collection?
Wow, that's a good question. Value-wise, I mean, that Militia EP is sold for over $3,000, and in fact, last year at Keep It True, a guy had one for 4,500 euros, which comes out to close to $5,000. And by the end of the day, it was sold. And I mean, and I've got multiple copies of that one, so it's making me think like, man, now might be the time to let one of those go, because
well, yeah,
I love the music, but I still have a few more. So, and that one also is probably one of the most sentimental as well, because getting it from the band at the show where they played, and I mean, it was the back of the Cameo, and I remember Phil and Mike were unloading some gear and stuff, and he goes, "Oh, we got our records in," and they had a box, and I'm like, "Holy shit, you got the records?" And he's like, "Yeah, the EP is gonna finally be out," and I'm like, "Man, I want to buy one." "Yeah, sure, here, $5, whatever." And he goes, "It sucks because we only were able to print up 100. We were low on cash, but we talked to the place in Tennessee or whatever, and we're going to get a few hundred more later on at a later date. But right now we just have 100. I'm like, "Oh, cool, man. Badass." And sure enough, I think they left 25 or 50 at Hogwald, and the other 50 probably sold in Austin. But I'll never forget those Militia records just sat in Hogwald for years. Like I would go in there and there was like 40. I'd go a couple weeks later, 38, 37, getting down to, until the last, got to the last 6, and I think that guy Chris from Switzerland was in town visiting Watchtower, and he ended up picking up the last 5 or 6 copies. And because this guy he was kind of ahead of his time with records. He knew collectibles and what was going to be worth money and stuff like that. So he saw 6 Militias, and he just grabbed them all, and that was it.
Chris Liebengut is who we're talking about, who has been mentioned and told in story form in our episode with Bobby Jarzombek. So Bobby was talking about how he sort of ended up with the Halford gig, and it all went back to Watchtower was rehearsing at the Jarzombek house, and we had Swiss Chris in tow with us. He was just hanging out with us. He was living with Rick and Doug from Watchtower. So we're at Ron and Bobby's house in SA, and Chris is out just wandering around the backyard, and here's Bobby practicing his Riot songs in the little studio in the backyard, and walks in there, and it's like Bobby's like out there working, and he's like, "Who the fuck are you?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Chris, and I'm Watchtower and da-da-da." "Oh, all right." And they became quick friends, and then years later, Chris was setting up some stuff in LA, and he knew some people and ultimately helped Bobby get the Halford gig. It's the same Swiss Chris that you're talking about right now.
Yeah. And it's such a small world, because I was in '86. I went on a family vacation with my dad to California, and I was like, man, it would be so cool to see like just one of these California bands up close and personal, in a small venue. And I was hoping for something like Blind Illusion or Heathen or something, but like, holy crap, Exodus was playing at the Farm.
What?
And I'm like, yep. And I was like, man, where my aunt lived was at least an hour out of there. So I took a Greyhound bus into San Francisco, right, at the Farm. And I was waiting in line, and I met this guy from Switzerland, and it turned out to be Chris's buddy, a guy named Tom. They had a fanzine together, but we were sitting there talking about stuff. And
was it Tom Moeller?
Tom Mulch, like M-O-E.
Yeah, Tom Mulch. I know Tom. Yeah.
He had that Mega Wimp magazine.
That's right. And Tom, I believe, stayed with me and Eric in Austin for a little while.
That's probably true as well.
I think so, yeah.
We were there in line just talking,
Wow.
Paul Bailoff walks up, right? And we're like, holy shit, it's Paul Bailoff, like a god,
Yeah.
And so we're like, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I'm like, man, dude, I cannot wait to see you tonight, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, "Oh, I'm out of the band. You didn't know?" And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, tonight's the first show with Zetro they got the guy from Legacy."
Yeah, Legacy, yeah.
Holy crap.
Which turned into Testament.
Which turned into Testament, exactly. So still a great show, and I enjoyed it, but to not see him with Bailoff was a little bit disheartening, because just the presence he has, he's just one of those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, small world. Metal world is so small because we
Well, he
all.
was like, yeah, I know, right? Paul was kind of like the miner. He was like the coal. He was like the blue collar. You know what I mean? He's like the underground. You know, he was the guy like getting everybody together, and
Yeah,
he was like
exactly. Yeah. He was a character. But yeah, he was
yeah,
lived and breathed metal. You know.
yeah, yeah.
So out of all your vinyl, what band would you say is the most collected? What band is most represented in your collection?
I probably have easily over 100 different Thin Lizzy things. You know, different pressings or variations or compilations or. They're a big one. I told Jason this the other day when he came by. He's probably one of the most represented. I mean, he's the most represented person on different. I think I have like 9 different vinyls of Jason between Broken Teeth, Watchtower, Dangerous Toys. You know, who knows all the other ones? You know, there's just so many. I got like 8 or 9 different albums with Jason on it. But I would say Thin Lizzy is probably the biggest single band, and then kind of like era that I collect the most is the new wave of British heavy metal. I have at least 2,000 singles from that era, and that's my favorite era because it's like, to me, it was like when hard rock was just turning into metal, and it was so raw and it was so powerful and had a little bit of punk attitude in it. It just, man, it was just the time, you know. And to if I could have been in England and between 79 and 82, I would have been in heaven, but.
Yeah.
I feel like that movement had a little bit of a DIY thing about it too.
Oh, completely DIY.
Yeah, those bands are coming out of the, you know, they were working in the fields, so to speak. They were just blue collar as shit. You know, they still had grease on their hands from, you know, working in the steel factories, and they'd go do a gig, you know, and it's working man's music for sure.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. And I mean, the way American bands would put out demos, they would put out 7 inches over there, you know, and it was just like, you know, I mean.
What out of all those Thin Lizzy records, or is it fair to say that Thin Lizzy is your favorite band, or is it just a coincidence that you have more of them than?
They're definitely, if not my all-time favorite, they're in the top 2 or 3. I mean, Thin Lizzy, Judas Priest, Metallica, it kind of fluctuates day to day, but overall, I mean, if I had to say, I would say, yeah, Phil Lynott to me was probably the greatest songwriter ever. His just the way he put words to music and the music he wrote, it's just, you know, the guy was just ahead of his time, you know.
So what's your favorite Thin Lizzy record? Because I'm a big fan too.
There's a couple of bands like Thin Lizzy, Riot, Budgie that I don't have a favorite album because I love so much, but my go-to if I'm going to play one the past few years has been Johnny the Fox. I just go to that one because it just crushes, you know. I mean,
it's mine too. Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, I'm a Thin Lizzy fan myself. I can't say that I have 100 copies of their albums, but who can? So I don't feel so bad.
Yeah. So there's so many things that we could talk about. We should probably switch gears and probably even just kind of fall back on something in your collection by way of you know, the next sort of topic. So you're down in Corpus Christi growing up. You're a big hard rock heavy metal fan. And how old were you when maybe what year was it that you kind of decided that you wanted to be in a band? And what was it that made you want to, you know, start trying to write your own songs? And were you ever doing any cover songs with a band before you? Because a lot of people did that. They did covers first with their neighborhood buddies out in the garage, you know, on a Saturday.
I come from zero musicianship background, so the fan part is right. I was just a huge fan. I guess in high school, you know, the underground scene was happening. Like 83, the floodgates kind of opened with Metallica, Exciter. So that kind of stuff, obviously, really, really appealed to me. So we didn't have anything like that in Corpus. So I would have to drive to San Antonio to see the concerts. And me and a buddy of mine would always go up for the Slayer versus Slayer and watch that. That's how I met you, you know, at the Cameo Theater when you guys played with Hellstar. So I just had I loved the underground. I loved the feeling of it. I loved the music first and foremost, but everything about it was like, I mean, it felt like, man, this is ours. This little bitty thing is ours. You know, it's not everybody knows about it. Not everybody cares about it, but we do. And it was special. And I guess I started before wanting to be in a band. Like I would try to bring the concerts down to Corpus. Like I brought you guys, Watchtower. I brought Nasty Savage. You know, I was trying to, some were hit or miss, some would make it, some didn't. But I just really wanted to see the scene flourishing like it was in other places. And so I got into promoting the bands and doing this kind of thing. And then a local band that was kind of doing originals and doing a good thing was this band called Final Assault. Well, Dave Burke, who was one of the guitar players in the band, he ended up quitting the band at the peak of their, I mean, they were like opening for Yngwie and Metal Church. I mean, they were Corpus's version of, you know, Watchtower like was in Austin, you know. And he just up and quit. And I'm like, dude, why'd you quit? You know, the band was good and everything. And he's like, yeah, I want to do something heavier, man. I want to make a thrash band. And I'm like, ding, ding, oh, lights are going off, you know. And I'm like, well, dude, that rules, because that's, you know me, that's what I love the most. And he's like, yeah, how would you like to sing for it? And I'm like, whoa, what? I can't sing, man. I've never been able to sing. And he's like, come on, man, it's thrash, you know, listen to this Hellhammer and all this. They're not really singing, you know, you can do that. And I'm like, well, shoot, I'll give it a shot for sure, you know. And that's kind of what led into it, you know. And we, in the beginning, we didn't care about anything. We just wanted to have a band that could play live shows, thrash shows, so people could come out and hang out, and the little community could just be together, you know. And one thing led to another. We put out that self-financed record. Then after that, we felt we got a little better because we had a second guitar player, kind of leaning now more in a Dark Angel Slayer mode. And so we did a demo and sent it to Combat. We sent 3 demos out: Combat, Megaforce, and Metal Blade. And within a week, we got a call from Combat. I was sitting in my apartment on a Saturday morning, and this guy calls and he goes, hey, I'm looking for someone from Devastation. I go, yeah, that's me. What's up? He goes, this is Scott Givens from Combat Records. We'd like to sign you guys. And I'm like, what? And he goes, you haven't signed with anyone else, have you? And I go, well, no, we barely sent our demos out. He's like, well, we're real into it. I love it. And we need to talk, you know. And I go, well, hell yeah, you know. And of course, Combat, are you serious? Like, that's such a label, you know.
It's in your collection. You have everything on Combat in your
yeah, of course, yeah. And I'm like, we're just 5 little knucklehead kids from Corpus. How is Combat Records contacting us, you know? I mean, it was just insane. But of course, yeah, we signed a deal and we went out and made a couple records and did a bunch of tours, and for a few years we're just living our dreams, you know. It was a great innocent time because it was still fairly underground, although it was getting bigger. Yeah. But it just was.
Is this 85? About 85?
Late 85 is when we put the band together. 86 was the self-financed album, and 87 is when we signed with Combat. So that's kind of the timeline, yeah.
Well, that's kind of a sweet spot right there. So you say, you know, this is a little bit all over the place because there's so much about your beginnings that I could like question, you know, do like a true and false game, and we should probably do that here in a minute. But let's talk about 87, 86, 87, 88 maybe. Give us a rundown of bands you opened for, whether we've heard of them or not, because you might have been middle bill and there was a cool band that, like, you know, jumped ahead a year later. There, you know what I mean? Tell us about some bills and some tours you actually got into the van and went around the U.S. and did runs with, whether they're popular or not, and maybe we'll interrupt you and talk about da-da-da-da-da.
Okay. Yeah, we were always down to play live, so obviously we always wanted to take every show and every opportunity we could get. I mean, we've opened for Exodus, Celtic Frost, Dark Angel, Death, Sepultura, Lost Rocket, DBC. Those are some of the maybe bigger ones. Oh, Testament, Kill. We did that show.
Who did you do longer runs with? I know you did
we did a tour with Dark
Death?
Angel.
Death.
Death, we did the whole U.S. tour.
Death, you did a whole U.S. tour.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. That's kind of like the cream de la crop. I feel like that's the one. I feel like that's the one that people sort of met you and befriended you, and you became sort of. This sounds funny, but a household name in the metal community, and like you were friends with Gene already, Gene Hoglan. You you were already pen paling with everybody. You and I were already friends. We had been friends for years at that point. Yeah. So a lot of the people that I knew, you knew, and then you, because of the scene, and your being a singer in a band, but not until you were a promoter bringing. What's the biggest show you ever brought down to Corpus?
I helped bring Anthrax down to Corpus in '86, so that would have been starting. Yeah, they sold out the Ritz, which was pretty killer, you know.
Yeah.
Wow.
What about were you involved in bringing Megadeth down to Corpus Christi?
Just on a local level. That was Joe Miller, Jam Productions, and he got me to pass off flyers and this and that. And yeah, we were supposed to open that one because I remember, didn't you come into town for that?
Yeah.
Like Megadeth, Lizzie Borden, and us, and then at the last minute, like somebody said they weren't moving their drums, and you're not playing, and total dick move, and like, but whatever,
Yeah.
But yeah, that is true. But you're right, that Death tour has really opened doors for us, because for Death it was the spiritual healing album, and I still remember to this day being like in Connecticut somewhere. It was snowing on the ground, and back then we had to use payphones, of course, right? So Chuck was over there on the phone, and I was waiting to be next. And he got off and he told me, "Holy shit, man." He goes, "The people at Combat just told me spiritual healing entered the top 200 charts or whatever." And I'm like, "Whoa." And he says, "Yeah, they're saying it's the first ever death metal album to enter the charts, And I'm like, "Man, that's crazy, Congratulations. That's badass." But yeah, that tour, they were selling out every night. And it was, for us, it was unbelievable because we got to be the direct support for that tour, and we had the same booking agent as them. That's kind of how we got it. But it was just a blessing for us. We really took the ball and ran with it after that,
Oh yeah.
So what happened with Devastation? Why the eventual breakup? I mean, every band's got this story, but in your case, what is it that brings the band to an end?
Yeah, I think mine, I don't know if it's typical or not, but we finished at the last, the summer of '91. I don't know who remembers, but it was tough for touring for metal bands because grunge and that alternative stuff was really exploding, and it was even Jason was out with that Operation Rock and Roll tour same time, and I think Jason can even verify that some of those shows got canceled because of the shit that was going on. But so our booking agent could not find a good band for us to go out with, so he goes, "Man, I'm just going to make you guys a headlining tour." And we were like, "Man, we're not really ready for that. We just put out Idolatry, which was our third album, which is to me the best album. Great. We were finally able to put on tape what we were trying to do. And so we decided if that's the only choice, that's the only choice. So he booked a tour that was Devastation, Malevolent Creation, and Demolition Hammer, which is a good triple bill. And he goes, "Well, where do you want to play? What do you want?" I said, "Mitch, just book the biggest tour you can. We want to play everywhere." So a month later, he comes back, "Okay, I got your dates." And we ended up playing like 76 shows in 79 days or something like that. Like we played all over the country, Canada, Mexico, everywhere. And I mean, we played like a little, I guess it was a Japanese restaurant in Oklahoma City. Like, I mean, he was just booking us anywhere he could get us, So we did that tour, and then, definitely there was a little friction on that tour between the band. Stuff was just going on, and we played the last show at Joe's Garage in Fort Worth, kind of a legendary place.
Yeah.
And after that show, I remember Dave Burke, like he went home with his girlfriend, and I think me and Ed might have rode home, but we just kind of all got in our own vehicles, left, went home, and we didn't know that was going to be the last time we ever played on stage, but it turned out being that way. And then a month or two after that, while we were still a band, Mitch got us a good European tour opening for, I think it was Massacre, Morgoth, somebody like that. And then Combat was like, man, we can't give you any tour support for that. 91. And I didn't know that they were getting ready to close down the label completely, but they're like, yeah, we can't give you any tour support. So like the two guitar players, Dave and Henry, were real strong set and like, well, we're not paying our own way to Europe. There's no way. I've been playing guitar for 15 years and it's got to pay for itself. And while me and Edward, the bass player, were like, because we were always working, dirty jobs and stuff. So we were like, we had the money. We're like, let's just do it, man. We'll go over there. We'll make the money back from selling shirts or whatever. It'll open so many more doors if we go to Europe. And we ended up voting, and two guys didn't want to go, two did, and one guy kind of like didn't care. But for whatever reason, me now with the knowledge I know, and I would have forced us to go, but at the time I was a young kid as well, and we just didn't go. And then a month later we get a notice from Combat that, hey, we're dropping you from the label's breaking up, and yada yada. And then kind of just everyone went their separate ways, and it was just over like that.
Have you pursued music since then? Have you been active in a band since Devastation that I'm unaware of, or have you kind of put that in the background?
Well, yeah, I put it in the background. There was one small thing I had a part of. Me and this old buddy from mine from Houston, Rob McNeese, Jason knows him quite well. He had always wanted to be in a band and sing and stuff. So I picked up bass, and we had this band called Killing Machine in the 92, excuse me, when Devastation broke up. And we put out a 7-inch single, but we never played live, never did anything after that single. It was kind of just a one-off thing. But no, I always looked back, and I mean, people ask me that, and I'm like, nah, I mean, for me, it was a one-time shot. We got to do what we did. We were very lucky. We weren't the most talented band in the world. And, being 5 kids from Corpus to play all over the world and do the stuff we did, to me, it was great. And I was able to say, hey, I did it. I did what I wanted to do. And, I'm not really good enough to go sing for another band or try out, but that one felt like kind of, it was my band as well as the other guys. So I felt comfortable in that. Outside of that, it was out of my comfort zone. So I didn't participate in anything else. No.
When you think about, this is an arguable phrase here, how short-lived Devastation was. In my eyes, Rodney, you went to the top of the mountain. You did, and you pulled off things that kids that at that age, between 18 and 25, still dream about. You pulled it off. You did everything that everyone between that age, 50-year-olds wish they could pull that off right now. I have a lot of questions for you when you kind of think about, let's play that true or false game right now.
Okay.
The Talk Louder True or False game starts now. Rodney Dunsmore, man of many hats. Is it true that you, maybe not too much pressure to say sole-handedly, but is it true that you and maybe a couple of, garden gnomes sort of created a scene down in Corpus Christi when there wasn't one, or in the beginnings as early as maybe 82, 83, 84, by some of the things you've already talked about, bringing bands down, forming your own thrash band? I know that Anchor Watt was already a band down there you were friendly with and that fit sort of with Devastation quite well. Is it true that between probably you and a couple of other bands or people created a scene that would be considered the metal scene? Because I feel like there might have been a punk rock scene, kind of underground punk rock scene already happening at that time down there. Is it true or false, that you can, even though you might feel a little greasy saying, yeah, I helped create the metal scene down in Corpus, just get over that part of it and say true or false?
I mean, I'll definitely say I helped push it to fruition. Like I took a big role in I mean, there's always people who talk about things and people who do things, and I always wanted to be the guy who does things, and so yeah, I took a big role in that. And it's funny that you say that though, but it's actually the reverse. I think like for a while there, Devastation and the underground thrash and metal and all that with Anthrax, Metallica, that was huge, but it was it kind of was quick lived in Corpus, because Corpus, as much as I love it, it's my hometown, everything, it's very trendy. So like when thrash metal was it, and then when Angkor Wat came out like a year or so after us, all of a sudden these kids that I saw in creator shirts and denim jackets, now they have mohawks and they're offender, shirts or whatever. So, they were just jumping on a new bandwagon or whatever, and nothing wrong with that. I mean, Angkor Wat was a great band, great people, but Corpus was just always not a trend setter, but a trend follower, So
yeah.
It's a small town,
It's not just Corpus. That's normal.
Yeah, that's probably a lot of places, There's only so many Austins and San Antonios,
Yeah. So is it true that you when you formed your own band and you released your first record on your own, and were just putting it consignment, putting it in stores everywhere yourself, doing the work yourself, and you'd only done a handful of shows probably at that point, while you're bringing bands to, like bigger thrash bands, etc., down to Corpus so you could be on the bill, or at least put your friends on the bill. When you were ended up on Combat Records, which you were a fan of all of the bands that were on the label, and you had sent your stuff to the three labels, Megaforce, Metal Blade, and Combat, and all you did was look at the address on the back of those album covers.
Exactly. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a magic trick. Oh, here's the address right here on the back of the album cover. The album that's sitting behind you somewhere right now. You saw that address. You licked a stamp.
To this day, looking at the back of Killing All, calling that Crazed Management, which was just Rock and Roll Heaven Flea Market with John Zazula, and him answering, and I'm like, hey man, I live in Texas. Is Metallica ever going to tour here? And he's like, yeah, actually, I think they're coming down there in late August or something, and I'm like, hell yeah, I mean, it was a different world back then, I mean, it was, but yeah, the doing it yourself with our record and stuff, you're right. One of the proudest things early on for me was I hooked us up with even on the self-finance release that was on your Zombo label, I ended up hooking us up a deal with important record distributors. I don't know if you remember them back in the day.
Of course. Yeah, we used them for the Watchtower record, which was like to clear that up.
They got it nationwide and then even worldwide. And one day I bought a Kerrang at like the Record Bar in Sunrise Mall, and I looked at a Shades advertisement, and it said, "For sale, Devastation, Violent Termination, $6.99 or whatever." I'm like, holy shit! Our records are for sale in England. I mean, that's when you're 18 years old. That's mind blowing. That's insane, and it did make me feel proud. I'll admit that it was, because we did it all ourselves.
Right.
Yeah. I want to go back to something you said earlier, because I thought it was kind of funny and it's interesting at the same time. You said Dave Burke, is that his name, the guitar player that you formed Devastation with? He asked you to sing, and you said, "I've never sung a note in my life." And then you obviously, put your foot out there and did it. And so tell me how you went about developing your style, your confidence, your voice. Tell me how you go from "I've never done this before" to putting out 3 records and touring with Death.
That's a good question.
The confidence thing, I don't think I ever had, so we'll say that. But in the beginning, and I wish, going back to something Jason said, I wish we would have been. We were just like patience is not one of my virtues, right? Like, I'm very impatient. So as soon as we had an actual band with 4 people who could play instruments, I wanted to write songs and to create these songs. And I wish we really would have done covers in the beginning, like Diamond Head or something, so that I could try to practice singing to someone else's stuff and developing a certain type voice, or at least widening my range or something. But being that we just wrote songs, well, I'm trying to put music to a song that didn't exist before we wrote it. So I always struggled with that. And like the first album, the vocals are horrendous. They totally suck. By the second album, it got a little better, because it not that the vocals were better, but they fit the style, at least of the music, a little better. And then by the third album, it's one that I can say, yeah, that's good. I did a fine job on that one. but I never felt comfortable, and I never really had a singing style or direction or, I mean, I just wasn't lying to him when I said I had never sung a note in my life. I just didn't, I would, even when I was a little kid going with my parents to church, I wouldn't sing in church because I just thought, oh no, this is, I just didn't want to sing, and him asking me that really did kind of freak me out, but, I just gave it a shot, and, we did what we did. So, but yeah, I've never been confident or comfortable. And I don't think I ever really did develop a style, because all 3 albums, the vocals sound completely different. It was just learning from, oh, that sucked, so let me get a little bit better. Let me do something different. And that kind of sucked too. Let me, it was just trying to keep getting it better,
Trial and error.
Yeah. Well, you did everything right. The your process, it was your process. The batshit crazy is the fact that you'd never done it before, and you're writing your first song when you're writing your first song. You're writing your first song before you'd even knew what your fucking voice sounded like.
That's exactly true.
That is insanity. You don't even know what you're going to do yet, and you're trying to write lyrics, you're trying to write cadence, you're learning about songwriting. You don't know shit about songwriting. How are you learning about songwriting? Yeah. You're probably following Dave Burke's lead a little bit. He probably, would you say that he gets some credit on how to put the tunes together, or were you basically going off of your favorite songs that you kind of wanted to emulate?
I mean, I kind of did handle most of the lyrics, but yeah, Dave has to get so much credit, because Dave Burke was the sound of Devastation. Even when we added Henry, Dave wrote most all the stuff, because Dave just had a style. And I compare it to like when you hear a Hanneman song, it's Jeff Hanneman, and that's kind of how Burke was. He just had his own style, his own sound. And without Dave Burke, Devastation would have never accomplished anything, because that guy, I mean, he knew how to write heavy, and maybe Henry would write a riff and Dave's like, nah, that's a happy riff, man. We're going to do something different, and Dave just knew what he wanted, and he knew what sounded good. And yeah, he did push us in the musical direction that we went, for sure.
I feel like there's a lot of, I mean, it's obvious you guys were set out to be a thrash band. You're saying Dave knew what he wanted it to sound like. Well, I feel like you are admitting that, your limitations, of course, and wearing them on your sleeve and being humble about it and knowing when you can do better. All of this is a process, and you figured it out, because the first Devastation record, I mean, sure, you guys got better as you wrote more songs and did more shows, and you figured out what was going to work with your voice, and what destroyed your voice and what didn't destroy your voice, just by trial and error, like Dave said. That's all it is anyway. But trying to sing in key and have melody is not really, that's like saying, it's like we mentioned the late great Paul Bailoff. I call it like the Scooby-Doo vocal. And you don't sing like that. You had your own thing where it was kind of shouty and might have been a little closer to like early Chuck Billy or something. And I feel like what Bailoff, I called it the Scooby-Doo, where it's a kind of a Scooby-Doo, right? 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 I call it the Scooby-Doo. And you know who? I'm guilty of the Scooby-Doo. I use the Scooby-Doo all the time, but it's the Paul Bailoff thing, just to get away from a cartoon. But, the high screechy down into your guttural voice, right? And then you do it again, and it's a thing. It's actually a style in thrash metal. So you had your own version of whatever that is. I wouldn't call it the Scooby-Doo or a Paul Bailoff. Like I said, it was, kind of a rat-a-tat-tat, and then you would, when the riff would change, you would change to fit your cadence, to fit what was happening in the tune. And that's ultimately the basics of what it is you guys were doing musically. Now, the fact that it got better is all because of your experiences with it is all I'm really trying to say. The more shows you did, the more songs you wrote, the better it got, and it got to a peak. And you guys, here you go. Here's a scenario. Tell us about the time you're in New York and you see that I'm playing with the toys at the Ritz Theater, Studio 54. And you knock on the door, and someone comes and gets me and pulls me out there. Hey, there's some guy out here that's looking for you.
Yeah, that was a trip. We were on tour with Sepultura, and I think you were on tour with LA Guns. And we had like the night off, and we wanted to go to the show. Yeah, and I remember. Yeah, it was crazy seeing that you had made it to such a level. Yeah,
that's surreal to me when I was running into my homies. I got to tell you, Rodney, I didn't even know how to act because it was all like a big wow to me at that point, for just where I was musically, and the machine was working for, you know, that kind of butt rock, you know, butt metal and hair metal, as some people like to call it, and you know, the MTV thing and all that. And then here's guys that I was with, you know, shoulder to shoulder in the underground, going, dude, what's up? And it's like, whoa. It was like it made me so happy to just see us both on, to me, it was the same level. The fact that we were just kind of bumping into each other on the road, years, you know. And also, this is another thing too that you can attest to. You think about the time that we met, and then the time that we're bumping into each other in New York, and the journey you had and the journey I had is such a quick span of years. It's only like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah,
that shit was happening fast.
Yes, it was.
You went from 0 to 200 miles an hour in kind of a roundabout way. I did too with the things that I was doing. And then here we are going, dude, wow, crazy.
Yeah.
From like 85 to 89, it's pretty weird.
Yeah, you're all those miles from home and making your mark, each of you. That's really cool. And then to bump into each other, that's pretty, you know, a face from home. How cool.
Yeah. Well, and that was probably happening, that it was happening to both of us on kind of nationwide.
Yeah.
You know, when were you, how many dates you think you did with Dark Angel?
Dark Angel we took over that tour when Death, I don't know if I think they just left. They didn't get kicked off. They just left. Death and Dark Angel was supposed to be like a co-headlining tour, a combat, Ultimate Revenge type thing. And the bands just didn't get along. I don't know what the stuff. I've heard the story from Bill Andrews and Terry and Chuck, and then I've heard the story from Gene Hoglan and Eric Marr. And so, you know, we get along with both of them. So that's all I'll say, whatever their differences were, you know. I don't know. It was maybe 10 or 12. I think Death dropped off. I think they just dropped off in Florida where they were living. And then we started maybe in New Orleans and went to like Phoenix or somewhere on the West Coast or something. We did about 2 weeks, I guess, with them.
Yeah. And you did some Texas dates with Rotting Corpse, is that right?
No, the Rotting Corpse and Dark Angel was just those two.
Oh, okay, right.
We didn't do that.
You didn't do any Texas date. You didn't do any. Yeah, that's right. You didn't do any
Texas dates. Yeah, we played the back room. I think you were there. Yeah. We did all the Texas dates. There was about 8 of them. It was even little places like Amarillo, and I mean, it was a lot of Texas dates.
Texas is big.
Yeah.
Do you know how many underground thrash metal bands that wish they were, if they were alive and they were a band at that time, you know how many of them are jealous of you? A lot. A lot. Because Dark Angel is, you know, one of the Los Angeles thrash kings.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah.
What about Hyrax? You ever do any gigs with Hyrax?
Never did. No.
Okay.
Never played with Hyrax.
But I bet Caton DePena has been to some Devastation shows.
Uh,
No?
I've seen him. No, I didn't see Hyrax until the early 2000s. They came to
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I never saw Hyrax.
Okay.
They never really toured through Texas, and I never made it to California when they were playing. So
Right.
I want to go back to your record collection for a minute because I'm looking at it in your background there, and being a collector myself, nowhere near on the level as you. But is there anything? Is there an album out there that's eluded you all these years? What's the one album you're chasing like the Holy Grail and you just can't get your hands on it?
well, that title has changed over the years, but like there's a band called Buster Brown from Australia that features Angry Anderson and
Yeah,
the old drummer from AC/DC, Phil Rudd.
yeah.
That was a big one for years. I always wanted to find that, like the Rush on Moon Records.
You mean this one, Rod?
Buster Brown. There it is.
That's it. Yeah.
You guys might need to work out a deal.
Yeah. Well, I got it now.
Oh, you got it now. Okay.
Yeah,
So
this
what
one's
Reissue, it looks like.
yeah.
Yeah.
what's currently on your at the top of your wish list?
The top of my wish list right now, there's 2 albums. They're European 70s hard rock albums. A band from Sweden called Solid Ground. That's one I'm desperately looking for. And then it's a weird band from Luxembourg, of all places, called Cool Feet. They're man, it's just, that album is unreal. And one sold on Discogs last year for like $5,500 or something sick. And I'm like, I'm not paying that. I mean, even though, like what I said earlier about I'd rather have records than money, there's just a line you got to draw, you know, and it's just.
Of course. You gotta be careful, man.
Those are 2 of the bigger ones right now. And I mean, it's, you know, they're obscure, you know, and probably people listening are like, who the hell is that, you know? But it's just, you know, most of the normal stuff, like all the Metal Blade, the Combat, you know, I have all those things. And then I have most of the U.S. private pressings and stuff like that. So it's getting to a point where, yeah, it's harder, which is good because now I save money. Like I go into a record store now, 9 times out of 10, I'm not leaving with anything. And you know, like I might need one Uriah Heep as a filler album or certain Blackfoot, which that's wrong. I have all those. So anyway, but you know what I'm saying? There's some filler things of 70s hard rock that I'm still buying and still picking up for.
Yeah.
The big items, yeah, I've got most of the ones I want. I'm still searching for those.
If you have the whole rainbow or the whole sort of discography of one band and you're just missing that one, and you just find it to go, this is not really one I like, but it's the only one out of their discography I'm missing, you'll go ahead and get it.
Oh, I'll go ahead and get it. And it's so weird because when you go to as many record stores over the years as I have, and I mean, I do travel a lot, so I go to a lot of them, you know, you see things and then you kind of, you think you already have it because it's just so common and you've seen it so many times and you think, oh, well, there's no way I don't have this. So like just the other day, I was going through my ZZ Top and I don't have Rio Grande Mud. And I'm like, how the hell do I not have Rio Grande Mud? You know, that goes back to the addiction part that you were talking about earlier. Cause like, yes, when I do collect a band, I get them all, like all the Rainbow, all the Blue Oyster Cult, all the, you know, Sammy Hagar. Like I love the solo Sammy Hagar, man. His, you know, I do want to have them all. So yeah, even if their band puts out a weak album, like, yeah, I have Load, I have Reload. I even have that stupid Lulu album, you know, but do I ever listen to it? No, but I have it.
Right.
I still have never heard Lulu, to be honest with you. I kind of like some songs on Load and Reload. I know people will shoot me for that, but there's some good stuff on there.
Well, they can, you know what you like and they know what they like and who's judging who, you know?
Yeah. So you're obviously a metal dude, but what's in your collection that would be described as a guilty pleasure or something we might not expect from Rodney Dunsmore?
I got to admit, one of my guilty pleasures is REO Speedwagon. Even the High Infidelity album where they got radio, I just love it, man. I mean, it's that's just one of my favorite records. You know, it's just
you know who mentions REO and who is a fan of REO Speedwagon and actually friends with Kevin Cronin. And this it's not a surprise to me. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. Is Rob Halford?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So good songwriting is all I have to say about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's true. That's what gets lost, you know. And that's when I was younger. I didn't really realize that when I was younger. It was about how heavy or how fast or how brutal. But
Yeah.
you know, a good song is a good song, and that's what music's all about: is creating a good song. And
That's right.
you know,
There's
Yeah.
a live album. There's an REO live album that I think my brother Randy turned me on to. But like many things, my brother Randy turned me on to. One of them was I think it's called "You Can Tune a Piano, but You Can't Tune a Fish,"
Yeah.
yeah,
and it's so good.
yeah,
It's a live album, so it's a little heavier. It's ballsier, you know.
Yeah.
They're playing a little faster. It's meaner. The vocals are a little meaner. I mean, we're talking about REO Speedwagon here. We're not talking about, even a, but I would argue and say it's probably better than a Van Halen record. You ever wonder why there's not really a good live Van Halen record with David Lee Roth?
yeah. I wonder why.
Yeah, well, I wonder why. I mean, I'm assuming I know why, but I'll save it for another show.
So
I would say the same thing about a live Motley Crue. It's a live Motley Crue record.
Now I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, you know
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah.
talking about now. Yeah.
Is there anything in your collection that's outside of the rock genre?
I mean, I've got a couple things. Yeah, I mean, I have maybe some B-52s. I don't know if that's considered rock or.
I call anything with people shoot at me for saying this, but anything with drums on it is rock to me. Country music is rock. B-52s are rock. Lobster had to do it.
10,000 Maniacs.
Cool.
Singer Basha from Poland or somewhere. So I mean, I do. I mean, I just like music. If it's good, and I like it, and it appeals
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about something that you posted the other day that was actually a gift. You didn't have to auction for this. You didn't have to beg for it. You didn't have to. And this is effing huge in the underground. You posted this on Facebook the other day, and some people might have seen that post and recognize what I'm about to talk about. And this is the handwritten lyrics by Jeff Hanneman for a song called Kill Again that ended up being called what?
Fight Till Death.
Fight Till Death from Show No Mercy.
Yeah.
You have handwritten lyrics from Jeff Hanneman
Yeah.
for Fight Till Death, which at the time was called Kill Again, which they used as for a title on Hell Awaits, if I'm not mistaken. Tell us about how that came to be in your collection and who's responsible for such an incredible hand-me-down, if you will.
Yeah, so I mean, I owe it all to two friends, Brittany Elliott and John Araya.
Tom's younger brother.
Yeah, Tom's younger brother. Yeah, he's moved to San Antonio recently, and him and Brittany got a house not too far from me, and I did a few things to help them out, let's just say, and then they surprised me. They said they're having a barbecue at their house, and I should come over, and we barbecued and hung out, had some drinks, had a good time, and then they presented me with this gift that's like, wow, tearjerker, like, man, you're giving me Jeff Hanneman's handwritten lyrics, and I was blown away, and I still am even now. But yeah, those are the two I owe it to. Yeah, John's a smart guy, man. He kept a box of stuff from back in the day. Man, you would love going through that box, Jason.
I know I would. I believe that you actually snapped a few shots of the box and the things just kind of laying out that he had in here.
That's right,
Holy shit, click. And it's just like stacks of stuff he's just got, this old shit.
He still has the original paper where they were trying to make the Slayer logo. There's like 5 or 6 different versions on there. And then like the one that Lombardo did kind of, because I guess he's left-handed or something, where Slayer was kind of leaning or whatever. He's got that. And I was like, oh my God, this is the first time Slayer was ever on anything, paper, whatever. That was the creation of the logo. So yeah, he still has that. I mean,
so let me interrupt you because this is like some historical knowledge here. Like, national treasure kind of shit, Tomb Raider kind of shit going on here. Indiana Jones. Here you go. So Slayer used to be called something else.
Yeah.
Dragon Slayer.
That was the SA Slayer version.
Dragon Slayer. No, I'm talking about Los Angeles Slayer. They were called something before Slayer, weren't they?
They were also called like Wings of Fire or something like that. They had a longer name too at one point. I don't know the chronological order of it, but I mean, I know they were called something else. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I always thought it was Dragon Slayer, and I don't have any recollection of SA Slayer having been called Dragon Slayer.
I think I read that in Juan Herrera's book. I think I thought SA Slayer was known as Dragon Slayer, and Villarreal said, let's cut the dragon out of the name and just call it Slayer.
Okay. Yeah, I might just be.
I remember that as well.
Yeah, I might just have the old man blues here, but that's fine.
This small trivia that probably many people don't know. There was a band. It's funny that you say it, called Dragon Slayer, part of the new wave of British heavy metal scene, and they were called Slayer in the beginning, and then their 7-inch came out in '83, right when Slayer's did. So then they took back all their 7 inches and they put a little sticker over it, and they changed their name to Dragon Slayer. And then of course there was the SA Slayer, but there's one people don't even know about. And these guys were the first to hit vinyl. There was a Slayer from Arizona, and their vinyl hit in '82. I have a copy of it. And so if you're talking about the legitimate first band to be called Slayer on vinyl, they're from Phoenix, Arizona. So it's not anyone that we know of.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah,
I just got edumacated today.
Yeah, that's a kind of a mind-blowing tidbit. But I'm not surprised by such an archivist.
Yeah.
Which is the first time I've used that today in this episode with Rodney Dunsmore here, who has probably the biggest collection of hard rock and metal that I've ever seen under a man's personal residence roof.
Yeah.
It's out of control. It's posters and record store promo stand-ups and demo cassettes, isn't it? It's not just vinyl.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. I wanted Rodney to expand on his collection. Let's get beyond vinyl. What else do you have? I think Jason touched on it because I've seen tons of rare posters. I'm guessing you've got all kinds of backstage passes, demo cassettes. What else is in that collection of yours?
Looking around here, some of the cooler stuff. I have the Ted Nugent pinball machine backdrop. I have a stand-up from Thin Lizzy from '76 record store display. Wow. I have the old Sodom record store display. I have this UFO puzzle that came out in the late '70s. Is pretty rare. It was a promo item. I have that. How do
you get one of these displays from a record store? So how do you? I want to know how you get a Thin Lizzy record store display.
Yeah, what's the first? What? Tell us this. Yeah.
How do you approach that? Do you just walk up to a guy that's working at the store and say, "Hey, dude, when you're done with that thing, I want it. I'll buy it off you." How do you go? How do you end up with that in your house?
Yeah, well, that, like I said, that was just eBay. Because in '76, I didn't know Thin Lizzy, but if I see stuff now in record stores and it's old stuff, then yeah, I'll offer them if they want to sell it or whatever. But that one, unfortunately, was eBay, and I do have a few things that are from eBay that are pretty cool. I got a lot of Ted Nugent stuff in here, a lot of promo Ted Nugent stuff, stand-ups from also record store days, a big double live Gonzo record store display. 3D, it's pretty killer. Triumph, just tons of that kind of stuff,
How many? Because you have such a massive collection, and you're well connected in the scene. Have you ever had any touring bands like come over and hang out at your house and just have like a big listening party?
Yeah, actually, I have. Certain bands, I don't let as many now as I used to when I was a little bit younger because. Unfortunately to say a couple times stuff's coming up missing or whatever, but like a couple that really were big ones to me was the band Satan when they were on tour, their first time coming over here. They stayed at my house, and I had all 5 members in my record room, and we took a picture, and it was just like, to me, that was amazing, because you got Brian Ross from Blitzkrieg and, all the original Satan guys. And yeah, we were flipping through records, and it was so great because Steve Ramsey's telling me like, oh shit, Trespass, I haven't seen this in 30 years. Let's jam it. And, and it was fun for them because they were seeing these records that they haven't seen in a long time. And so they're one. Some newer bands like my best buddy Jamie, he's in a band called Midnight. They're getting pretty popular, so they stay here. Night Demon stays here. There's been a few others, but
those
probably
are like that's like family to you now, and we'll get to
now
that.
they are family now. Yeah. So, but yeah, Satan might have been the biggest one.
That's cool.
Well, that's cool.
Man.
That's really cool. Like you mentioned, Brian Ross of Blitzkrieg. I mean, you're talking about a legendary new wave of British heavy metal band. You're talking about a legendary new wave of British heavy metal singer, band Blitzkrieg. That's like a twofer that you got having Brian Ross there, because Metallica used to cover Blitzkrieg. It's a famous song that he sang on, that he helped write. That's the guy standing in your living room, basically.
Right.
Yeah, and that's incredible to me. That's incredible.
Pay out of his houses for the royalties or something, he told me.
Say that again?
Said he might have paid off his house with the royalties he got from the Blitzkrieg,
I have no doubt in my mind. It's I remember hearing Lemmy talk about the checks that he got from the Metallica guys doing the Motorhead medley on those cover albums. It's pretty impressive. So let's talk about when you and I first met. 85, back at the Cameo.
It was I know it was December, but I can never remember if it was 84, 85. And I want to say 84 because I remember the second time I saw you was that Kelly Drive-In show. And for sure, that was 85, which makes me think it had to be December of 84.
Okay, so the Watchtower debut, Energetic Disassembly on Zombo, was not out yet.
No, not out yet.
Okay, I always thought that it was, but I've known you longer than I thought. So here's where I'm going with this. So with all of a lot of people don't realize this, and I'm just going to kind of wear my heart on my sleeve right now. I have a lot of respect for you, Rodney, because you are a nerdy fan just like we are, just like the people who love the show and have already seen 50 episodes of our listened to every episode we've done so far. And the thing is, I went down to Corpus and hung out with you in your apartment, and we were young, and I slept in, and you had to get up early as shit and go to work, and you were working at like Whataburger, and then you'd get out of Whataburger and go work at Taco Bell next door to the Whataburger. And in my head, I'm going, now hold on a second. This guy's got these totally disposable jobs, either so he can up his record collection or so he can do the things that that you don't even realize that you're going to end up doing. And that is, here you go, your work ethic and your passion are equal. You're doing these shitty jobs, and you're just nonchalant about how shitty the job is. You become a manager at a fast food restaurant, so you can buy these underground heavy metal records and up your collection, so you can eventually, here's the invisible sort of ghost that you haven't met yet, be a show promoter, for lack of a better term, to form your own band and probably help pay for gas and buy a van and whatever backline you guys need to do this, because you were kind of the manager in Devastation. Let's say that. We don't have to get down to the nitty-gritty on how much money you actually did put forward to get that band off the ground, but that deserves a crown right there. You know, you were just the humble beginnings of what became the formidable Rodney Dunsmore in my eyes. You know, you were, and let's fast forward to now. You know, you brought bands to Corpus. You help create a scene. You form a band. You get signed to Combat. You live out your dreams by touring with bands that you worship, and have become friends and respected by them. You know, where did you end up? How did you end up, and this is where I say it, starting a t-shirt printing business and getting the accounts that you have, because you have some fairly large accounts, if I'm not mistaken, over your t-shirt business, and to just kind of throw this in there on top of it, I'll let you just vomit all over us with whatever you say about it. But you tour as a merchandise manager and basically kind of helping out. You mentioned Midnight and Jamie and those guys, which are fucking awesome, and they're one of the bigger acts on Metal Blade now, and la. Tell us about all of that shit from A to Z, and then I want to talk about A to Z, the band that featured Simon Wright on drums, who was just a guest on this show. Okay, go, Rod.
Yeah, the work ethic, it started at a young age because two things. My dad was a super hard worker. He was a welder in Corpus, and he always instilled that in me, that you know, you were born a man, you're going to have to work. That's just how it is, you know? And so relatively, I mean, I wouldn't say we were poor, but we definitely didn't have money for them to buy me records and concert tickets and things like that. So I always had to have a job. So the day I turned 15, I got a job. And I've never stopped working. And it's crazy because it's just instilled in me. Like my last company that I had, I sold in 2010 for a pretty hefty amount of money, right? The next week, I was flipping burgers for $10 an hour at my buddy's restaurant because I just felt I had to keep working. I'd have to have a job because you can't sit around. And that money, I could have sat around for 10 or 15 years if I wanted to, but I just thought, I can't, you know, that's just not me. That's not. So that led on to that. And going back to the Taco Bell thing, when I knew you.
How old were you when you sold your first business?
It was 2010. So I was what, 40 maybe?
40. Yeah, 40.
Yeah. So.
That's pretty good.
Going back to that Taco Bell, the biggest
Sorry,
thing.
Rod. Sorry, had to throw it in there, man.
The only time I almost quit or would have got fired or whatever was, you may remember this as well. In 1984, in the same week, there was two shows. I always took the day off to go up to San Antonio for the concerts, right? But in November of 84, we had Motorhead, Merciful Fate, and Exciter at the Joe Freeman. 3 days later, Slayer at the Via Fontana.
Yeah.
And I put both days off on the calendar. Well, I had to work 6 days a week. They only would give me 1 day off. And she says, well, pick one because you're not going to both. And I'm like, well, then I'm quitting because I'm not going to miss either one. How do you pick between those bands?
No, you don't. You don't. I remember that week, and I remember I was a jobless sofa surfing son of a bitch. So that tells you what was going. And you were about to just scoot over, Jason. You know, the same shit was about to happen.
But yeah, it was finally she worked it out, you know, because they, you know, just happened that way. But yeah, I was ready to quit because I was not missing either one of those shows, you know. And it's so I don't know. I do pride myself on my work ethic. It is, you know, maybe above average, I guess. I don't know. But the t-shirt business thing came about as I had just moved to San Antonio from Corpus. And like you said, I was the manager. I always had to get stuff done for the band. So I had to find a new place to get our shirts printed. Well, I went into this one place and the guy looked pretty cool and he had a good price. And so he goes, yeah, we'll do your band t-shirts. So I would get them done there. We would go tour and I would come back and vice versa. So we came back off the tour, and it might have even been that Death tour or it might have been one previous. I don't know. But I told him, I go, look, man, I don't have anything going on for 6 months. Are you hiring? Do you need any help? And he said, yeah, I could use you. So I started just catching shirts at the end of the dryer and boxing them. And then I saw the guys printing. And I'm like, man, I want to be a printer. That's kick ass. So within a week or two, I learned how to do the printing. So I was printer. And then it turned out I was the shop manager. And one thing led to another. Then after about 10 years of working for this guy, I was like, you know what? I just need to make my own business, because this guy had went through a bad divorce. He was kind of on drugs, and we never knew if we were getting paid or not, those kind of things. So I just said, you know what? I'm leaving. So in 1999, I left, formed my own business, and just been doing it ever since, you know. And then, of course, well, I met Jamie back around the turn of the century, maybe around 2000.
From Midnight, to be clear, Jamie from Midnight, lead singer, bass player from Midnight.
Yeah, he was in a band called Boulder, and they were playing with a friend of mine, Gordon's band, Deadpool. They were playing at Medieval Nights. I don't know if you remember that place or not.
Of course.
Yeah.
It was like a Friday, Saturday night, and I go, and then I went with Phil Baker, and one of us, me or Phil, I can't remember, had on a Parallax shirt, and Jamie just walks up and goes, "Whoa, you know about Parallax?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, that's one of my favorite EPs." He's like, "Oh yeah, I love it too." You know, we just, man, it was a spark and a friendship developed that, you know, we always kept in touch. We always, you know, knew what each other was doing. And then
what band was Jamie in when he was down there?
It was called Boulder. They got 3 albums out on smaller labels. Just hard rockish metal crossover kind of.
And what year was that?
It was around either 99 or 2000, right around the turn of the century.
Okay. And to be clear, Phil Baker is he's passed on since, but he's one of the founders, if I'm not mistaken, for what's known as in the underground metal scene as the Midwest Militia.
Right. He, him and Dennis had that fanzine, and they also had a couple of record labels. And those guys were like the go-getters in Chicago. Like when you would look at Art Shock America, the heavy hitters were Ron Quintana in San Francisco, Ruben Luna in Texas. The Midwest was Dennis Bergeron and Phil Baker, and then somebody they had in Florida, and I think Don Kay in New York. So like, yeah, those are power people in the underground.
Yeah, and all of those guys deserve some kind of thankless, you know, the trophy of thankless underground power. You know what I mean? Like they created scenes by creating pulp and tape trading list and record store mail order and order imports and fanzine and radio, and it's in yeah.
So you've got this T-shirt business. Is it still going today?
It is still going today, yeah.
And so who are some of the bands that you work with now?
I don't do as many bands as you would think, because it's just so busy. I do a lot of like schools and local HEB and Spur stuff, but I do a band called Steel Panther. They're one of my clients. In the past, I've done Queensryche. Of course, I do all the Midnight shirts. I've done the Satan shirts when they come over and tour. I've done some shirts for some festivals overseas, but it's like the bands are definitely not my bread and butter. And I do tons of local bands, and sometimes I like it and don't like it, because, you know, the local bands, they have the least amount of money to spend, but they're the pickiest, and they want this and that and this and that. And it's
well, on that note, Rodney, thank you for printing up my shirts all these years.
Oh, always for you.
Jason recognized his cue.
Well, also I want to bring this up. You know, Rodney does the Talk Louder shirts.
Ah,
boom, Daddy. There you go.
I didn't know that. Well,
you know.
Well, thank you for that. I did not know that. We appreciate it.
Precision Screen Printing in San Antonio, Texas, the best company I've ever worked with. Let me tell you this: what was Steel Panther's last order from you?
The amount or the
how many T-shirts? How many goddamn Steel Panther shirts did you print?
Are you responsible for
in one order?
Seems like the last order was between 3,000 and 4,000. They're not like steady touring. They're kind of sporadic. Like they'll do a week here or there and whatever. But they do sell some merch, you know, and they got funny designs, of course, you know, But they're of the bands. Yeah, like this year I've printed more Steel Panther shirts than any other band, only because Midnight hasn't done anything. Like the past few years, Midnight does thousands of shirts as well, but they haven't been doing anything. So
yeah.
Well, I can't wait till we place an order for 3,000 Talk Louder T-shirts.
Well, let's hope we get there.
That means we're on to something.
Yeah, we need to make some more episodes and have some more kick-ass guests like Rodney Dunsmore. You know, Rodney, we could talk to you for a year, just about your collection and your love for, you know, vinyl and all things hard rock and heavy metal and just the things that make you want to get up and go to work so you can buy more records.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been great talking to you, man. Stories have been awesome, and I so need to come see that collection in person because I'm sure it's just a mind blower. It looks impressive on the video screen, and I realize I'm only looking at one corner of one room, and I can't even imagine what the rest of the place looks like. Oh.
Yeah, if you can, just he's spinning his camera.
Scanning his camera so that
who are not
we can get a little more jealous.
Yeah.
My own small record store, basically.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, but nothing is for sale.
But nothing is for sale.
Nothing is for sale. Yeah. Well, yeah. I feel lucky to have some titles in that mass collection.
Yeah, you got quite a few actually.
Well, I'm glad that you don't have like the McMaster bin where you just put all my different bands, because I've got 100 bands all in one place. I like it that you have them spread out alphabetical.
Yeah, I keep
Proper.
them to.
Yeah, I would expect nothing less from someone of Rodney's, caliber. He's one of these guys, I imagine, that's going to have everything chronological, alphabetized. There's not going to be a McMaster category. It's all going to be all your bands by name in chronological order.
This is my cue to say, like, yeah, I don't think Rodney has a bin. He's like, yeah, the shit that I don't like that's just my friends, I just keep it over there in that bucket over there, and that's where it would just have my name on the bucket. Yeah. Thank you for putting me in alphabetical order like it matters.
Tossing them over there.
Yeah, because the cool thing is Rodney obviously supports all music, and has supported me. I could almost say my entire life. So that to me, Rodney is kind of a king and a great old friend, and I really appreciate you talking to us today, Dave. If you don't have any final words.
No, I just want to say thanks for being on the show, and one day I hope to bump into you in person, and we can get to know each other, proper. Like, I've heard about you, I'm aware of you. People rave about your collection and your passion for metal, and it's obvious just from talking to you today. So yeah, thanks for being with us and sharing your stories and letting us kind of nitpick through your collection a little bit at a distance. One day I'll do it in person.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. All right. That's going to do it for another episode of the Talk Louder podcast. I'm Metal Dave Glessner with my co-host Jason McMaster and our special guest today, Rodney Dunsmore, super collector, musician, and all-around cool dude from Corpus Christi. Thank you all for listening to another episode of the Talk Louder podcast.